Warning. This podcast contains blasphemy, heresy, and profanity. Proceed at your own risk.
'Cause I'm exactly where I want to be. Yeah, I'm a sinner through and through. And I'll be waiting in hell for you.
Welcome to the Skeptical Satanists.
Welcome, the Skeptical Satanist. I'm your host, SlewSuffer, and I'm finally back from a longer than expected hiatus. I guess I was initially thinking of ending all of this stuff, not me, of course, but this podcast. But after some thought about it and everything, I decided to maybe keep giving it a go a bit. So today I was wanting to discuss something that's been on my mind lately, and that's that the corporations here in the U.S., corporate America, how we have these thoughts kind of shoved into our brains to the point of if you're in the U.S., you kind of get brainwashed into this idea that that somehow you're lucky to have a job, even if it never helps you to get out of debt, or it doesn't provide health care, or even if if the people there don't treat you right. So this idea seems to be from the thinking of the bootstrap. I don't even know if I want to necessarily call it a philosophy as much as it is a fallacy. And it's just saying that if times get tough or whatever, you just got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And that idea is kind of absurd in itself. It is absurd in itself, because the idea is that you have these straps on your boots. If you have this hurdle to get over or whatever, and you can't get over it, then you're just going to pull yourself up by these things and be able to get over it. And of course that's ridiculous. You can't just pull yourself up off of nothing to get anywhere over something you can't get over to begin with. And that's what the corporations have already done, is they put this wall, this block in the way that people aren't able to get past on their own. We could implement legislation and things that would make it easier. But these corporations are putting all of their money into politics, into politicians, to make sure that we aren't able to overcome these things. So I kind of wanted to focus on that, and thinking back about this specific idea, there were things whenever I was growing up, and I guess I'm considered a millennial, but not necessarily able to connect with some of the newer millennials in the sense that I didn't really grow up with internet readily available. It was all dial-up still, and I still remember bag phones and different things like that, the pre-cell phone days where it was pagers and things. I still have a vague memory of those things, and a sense of what it was like to not necessarily have the technology that we do today. But even thinking back of when I was a kid, there was still a lot of these smaller stores, and I suppose there was kind of corporations then, but it didn't seem quite as prominent as what it is now. Like, there wasn't. It took quite a while before the Walmart started to even pop up, and then that turned into a Walmart supercenter that was everywhere. And back then, I can remember that it just seems like after Walmart came into the area, that was kind of it. That was the end of these little mom and pops places. That was the end of these local businesses that put their money back into the communities and help to basically make America what it was. And after they were out of the way, the corporations just kept pouring in. These big businesses, the Lowe's, the Home Depots, I guess Kmart was there before, I do remember it, and Sears and things. But not these one-stop shop type things that were mainly focused on just how much profit they can make by keeping the wages lower and increasing prices while these CEO wages just soared through the roof. And so this is a problem here. This is a big problem, and I don't know how much people from other countries necessarily understand to what degree it's a problem. Because I've spoken to people from other countries and gotten their input on different things, and they just can't really even grasp that. Well, what do you mean you can't afford to go to the doctor? What do you mean you can't, that these corporations are buying off politicians? What do you mean that they're campaigning for months and months at a time, a year ahead of time, before they're ever elected or anything, or even getting to the elections? What? Why? How is that happening? You're supposed to have a democracy, right? You're supposed to have or even a republic of sorts or whatever. You're supposed to have this control over things, and it's supposed to be controlled by the people. And yet it really isn't. It's all about the money that gets poured into these things and who's doing it and who has the most. So we're in this state where we've got corporations putting people in debt and profiting off of putting people into debt, from pharmaceutical companies to the healthcare providers to just even, like I had mentioned earlier, the Walmarts, the corporations that are running these super centers, these stores, these mega stores, whatever you want to really call them. And I mean, we could get into a few different aspects of this, I guess, that are on my mind. But one of the major aspects that bugs me is how Christianity has kind of had its play in these things as well, and how we have all of these Christians that are claiming to want to be more godlike, or want to be, and I guess that depends on which way you read your Bible and all of that. But we also have this thing of that Jesus was saying to feed the poor, to take care of his sheep and things like that. That we, almost to the effect that we have a moral obligation in order to take care of other people around us and to love your neighbor. And yet these same people that are supposedly for those things are also in favor of this corporate capitalism, this ultra corporate capitalism that is leeching off of people that don't have money, or have hardly any money to begin with. And it's all to feed their insatiable need to have power and dominate over the rest of the country. And it's endless, as far as I can tell. It's never enough. And we'd taxed them before, and then these Christians put their money and then they put their votes into the politicians that went and took those taxes away, that reduced those taxes to the level that they are now. And you could argue, and I guess I'd been in a conversation before with somebody that was saying that even though they were taxed at 90%, they weren't paying the 90%. Or not all of them were, anyways. So, I don't see that subtracting from the actual problem, though. That just doubles down on the issue at hand. And I still can't get around the fact that CEO wages went up close to 1,000% more than what workers' wages did from the 70s on. So that's an astronomical amount. And it's no wonder that we have all of these millionaires, these billionaires, and it's no wonder that they've been put in the positions that they are. And then Christianity kind of fed into that and into the bootstrap thinking as well, that you're lazy if you aren't working, that if you take advantage of these things that are even presented in the system, like welfare, that are meant to help the poor, then that's somehow this sin of some kind, this abomination to them. Like, I mean, even, I don't know, the people they supported, Reagan and everything. Reagan would, he pushed the welfare queen scenario, this made-up thing of, I mean, it wasn't made up in the sense that there was a person that they based it off of. There was a woman that was taking advantage of all kinds of things, but it was a very specific example, and it wasn't just welfare that she was taking advantage of. She was doing several other things to cheat money out of people. So it was a poor example to try to feed this bootstrap philosophy that it's almost like they're looking down on the poor and trying to get you to ignore what the rich are doing to you. That it's perfectly fine for these corporations and everything to take advantage of the system and everything. But for somebody that doesn't have any money to take advantage of the system or to take advantage of things that help them to better them or to just help them to survive, then those things are supposed to be looked down on. And I've seen it it's not just like the upper class. It's been this propaganda that has spread like wildfire throughout this country. And it's the working class people that fall victim to it. And I think religion plays into that as well, in the way that the doctrine, the scriptures, and everything is set up. Because it's the meek that inherit the earth and everything. It's always like these, it's trying to discount that the rich are somehow better off in this world. It's this thing of, well, that's okay though, because there's an afterlife, so it doesn't matter, because the poor and the meek and all of that, they're going to inherit things in the afterlife. So you suffer and you go through all of this this martyrdom here, and then your reward is not seen until after this life's over, which is, just perfect, because how are you going to know if there's an afterlife or not? Nobody's come back, and you could get into near-death experiences, but other than those, and those we know can be affected by just the brain losing oxygen and blood to it and everything, and causing hallucinations and things of that nature. Because widely, whenever you get into those things, it's like, you never hear of the Muslims seeing the Christian God, or the Hindus, or the maybe not necessarily Hindus, because that's a different thing. But yeah, Hindus, I guess they got their own Vishnu and different things like that. Or maybe I'm confusing that, but you get the point. It's never this interchangeable thing to where there is this one God like they state, because nobody is seeing those visions of those things in other religions. Otherwise they wouldn't stay in their religions whenever they end up seeing those things. So, getting back to this idea, the bootstrap thinking, this meek shall inherit the earth and all of that, and it just seems like a very it's very coincidental, isn't it? That the rich are able to profit off of this idea, that they're able to twist this into their propaganda, or not even do that much twisting, really. I mean, you know, it's already there. It's already in the text. It's already laid out pretty well, and they take advantage of that as much as they can. And even the mega church pastors, that's kind of like the epitome of all of it, is that you guys are organizing these religions and these churches and everything, and you're even taking advantage of the system in that by not paying taxes or anything. And then you don't even have to prove that you have done anything that's tax exempt worthy. It's just that you have a church. And yet, yeah, still, it's okay to look down on the poor and everything, because they're supposed to rely on the crumbs from the rich. It's such a ridiculous thing, and it's such a sad thing that people don't have more empathy than that they aren't even able to look outside of themselves or take an honest look at what's going on in the world, what's going on in your backyard, what's going on in the city, the larger city down the road, a few miles or a couple hundred miles or whatever, if you're out in a rural area and don't really see it all the time. But even in the rural area like I grew up in, there was still a good bit of poverty about. And there was always these things of like pretending like, you know, that these were lower class citizens of some kind, that they were lazy, they didn't work, or they were drunks, or they were this, or they were that, and these labels got thrown around endlessly to criticize and to ridicule and to downplay. But you never really heard that about the rich. The rich, it was always that, well, they worked to get where they were. Well, they worked to, you know, the self-made millionaire, the self-made, you know, these, and the facts are, like the statistics are, that it is nearly impossible for anyone to become one of these uber-rich people on their own. That doesn't happen. Like, usually even the people that have gotten into those spots or into those positions to begin with, their parents had money to be able to start them out with, in some form or another. And even this idea of, well, I'm in the middle class, and yeah, I struggled, and yeah, I did. Yeah, but the middle class is such a wide range of people that there's lower middle class and there's upper middle class. And there's a little bit in between. But unless you're upper middle class, you didn't have to go through the things that the lower middle class or the people below that even did. Like, I can't even imagine the struggles of somebody lower than the lower middle class. That's getting pretty bad. That's like Medicaid and things like that you have to be able to qualify for those to begin with. You are making so little that you're barely surviving to begin with. And it's an opportunity for you to get food or to get, you know, health care and things that you can't afford at all. And it's just a shame that people aren't more willing to see that they aren't more willing to look outside of themselves or their own specific little thing, and they want to try to crucify themselves to feel better, to feel like they belong with these other people that are impoverished or whatever, or that somehow they relate on this personal level with them. And I even had somebody try to do that once in a bar in this area, where he said his family and everything that he grew up in was in the top 8% of wealth in the country. And he's trying to carry on this conversation like he can somehow relate to me because his mommy and daddy decided not to give him money for a while, and he had to live in a trailer, a nice fucking trailer, one that was just given to him. But, it was a trailer, so somehow it was a very backhanded thing just in that he thinks that because somebody's living in a trailer to begin with, that's something that is poorer than, or, beneath him now, that he's done well enough now to be able to get out of that, and that was some horrible struggle for him for the longest time. And they'll even throw things in about struggling to have food or whatever, or struggling to survive. And it's crazy, because it's like they're fantasizing these things and thinking that this makes them superior in a way. That, look what I did. Look at what I did. Look at where I'm at now. Well, you could do that too, but you're just focusing on all of this bad stuff, so you'll never get to this point doing that. And there's self-help things that are kind of like that too, and it's not that I don't think that there are valuable tools in some self-help things and in psychology-based self-help. But this nature of this positivity, this you just think it and you can do it, or you just get out there and do it. You just pick yourself up by your bootstraps and you do this, and then you'll be rich, or you'll make it, or you'll get to all of your goals that you have in life. And it's just not true. I mean, there's so much that the environment affects, the environment that you're in affects, and the way that things are run around you, that you can't escape out of easily. And it takes more than just you to be able to do it. And I mean, that's kind of why I vote. That's why I try to engage with other people and try to get good ideas on the things that are beneficial for everybody and for society as a whole, because society has to work together, or it's going to fail together or apart in that sense. It's always been that way. And whenever we start having these tribalistic ideologies thrown about, like the bootstrapping thing, and then we have people like that I was talking about, the man that I'd met in the bar, trying to downplay that those things are even happening to begin with, then that's how I think people start getting swept into that mindset to begin with. And somebody had mentioned to me not that long ago that, well, because they had passed along a bootstrapping type thing on Facebook, and they had said, well, but I don't believe that. I don't believe the things that this guy's saying. I just thought that this quote was nice and everything. And, isn't it everybody's responsibility to look those things up on their own and make their own decisions? But I said, isn't that what propaganda does to begin with? Isn't that the way it works? If it was already so obvious that people were able to say, oh, that's propaganda, then they wouldn't be buying into it, right? And if people thought that it was as serious as what it is, that is going to influence somebody, then other people wouldn't want to pass it along as easily. So I mean, that's kind of the best kind of propaganda, is the kind that just subtly influences you and gets you to believe that it isn't that serious, to where you pass it along. And then, you know, the people that do buy into it, they're passing it along. So they've got twice the audience now that it's reaching than what it would have before. And you never know how those subtle cues are going to affect people. And you never know how skeptical this person's going to be as opposed to the next. And in this country, there is a great lack of skepticism, even in some of the smarter people that I've met. And it's a shame, because it can lead to so many illogical things. And people seem to be more caught up on claims, on things that people say, and whether it's true or false or not. Or even just saying that it doesn't really matter or whatever. But that isn't the thing that I like to focus on anymore, I guess. I see more value in focusing on the methodology, on how we get to where we are coming to the conclusion that things are true or false. And I really think those are the beneficial things that we should be focusing on. And I think we have kind of a moral obligation to each other to try to keep each other in check over those things. And not necessarily to try to convince somebody that your way is the best way, or anything like that. But just for the fact that if I'm wrong about something, then I want to know why. I want to know what's flawed in my methodology, what's flawed in the way that I'm thinking. What tools should I be using if these are the wrong tools to come to logical and rational conclusions about things? So, I think I'll end it there, and I hope you guys tune in, and yeah, I hope to maybe have some guests on soon and get into some more topics like this. Thanks for listening. Our artwork is by Jamie Coptic. You can check out the rest of their work at jamiecoptic.studio. Our music is by Bridge City Centers, through and through, and you can find them at bridgecitycenters.com. If you like our content, please like and subscribe to us on YouTube, and donate to us at paypal.me/skepticalsatanist. Hate mail, death threats, or fan mail, send that to JesusChristAlmighty@hotmail.com, or get a hold of us on Facebook. Whatever you do, don't leave this YouTube channel without liking and subscribing to keep up on all of our content.